Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jared Light. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for the New Zealand Defence Force. Probably cover off a wee bit. So on this slide, a bit of background. So cyber threats, as we know, are an international problem. New Zealand's not immune. One of the key things that we keep looking at is New Zealand keeps thinking of itself as a country that's far, far away. But in a hyper-connected world, we suffer the same cyber threats as every other country around the world. Cybersecurity brings vulnerabilities and opportunities to defence. One of the key things for us is we do have some unique platforms and network systems, both in the fixed and deployed area, and we tend to operate in some fairly gnarly environments. So we are seeing increasing cyber threats across all of our day-to-day military and non-operational activities. We were looking to develop a set of cyber effects that will provide commanders with new sets of tools to ensure that they are successful in their missions. And the provision of a cyber capability to military commanders will also enable them to achieve military objectives and respond to activities that threaten both New Zealand security and the safety of defence personnel. So in respect of that, we developed in 2019 a strategic cyber framework, which outlines the changes for NZDF as a whole organisation, not just at a technical level. And ensuring that the delivery of our cybersecurity capability project, the delivery of that capability will not overlap with what government already does. So with that, we've got the strategic cyber framework, which outlines our outcomes that we're after. So we started off with robust governance. So like most organizations, we need to ensure that we're actually governing the environment well enough, and our senior executives are aware of the obligations, both at a national level, an international level, and with our Five Eyes communities. The second outcome was around defensive cyber. So the key thing for any organization is to make sure that we're defending and protecting our systems and information and ensuring that none of that is compromised. In the context of NZDF, that could lead to the compromise of personnel in different countries and making sure that we're well defended across the board. Cyber is everyone's responsibility is the third strategic outcome that we had. And that was making sure that everyone was aware of what their obligations were, right from the chief executive, the service chiefs, right through to the private on the ground or the able rating at sea. And that's making sure that they're aware of their obligations around ensuring that good practice is done based on the operating environment that we work with them. Effective workforce is the fourth strategic outcome. And that's focusing on not just the cyber defenders, but it's working with people like our commercial services team and our logistics team to ensure that our supply chains and suppliers are working well and that they themselves have protected supply chains. So an impact for defence is if we are overseas on a deployment, someone compromises a supply chain or a supplier, that does actually affect our deployed personnel. We also need to make sure that our suppliers that hold any defence information are protecting that information accordingly. And so therefore we will be looking to start developing some more contractual requirements when we engage with industry to provide us assurance that you're protecting both NZDF assets as well as NZDF information. Strong relationships. So as a defence force, we have strong relationships across the world with our Five Eyes partners, as well as locally with the likes of the intelligence communities. So that's making sure that we have effective relationships in terms of sharing information with those partners, but also getting a lot of information to support our own internal capabilities. Enabling mission success. So that's the key one for us, and that's making sure that we are ensuring that the organisation is sustainable and can cope with any sort of attack, but also making sure that people deployed out in theatre are well protected. The information that we host or others host about us are well protected, and the infrastructure that they use for things like welfare environments and connecting back to the strategic environment are well protected as well. And with all that said, the key thing that underpins all of this is making sure that we have NZDF-wide sustainable practices. That's making sure that every investment that we do has a security element to it. So we need to make sure that we're building security into everything we do and make sure everything we do is secure by design. So with that, I will hand over to Sunita Musa, who is running our cybersecurity support capability project, and she will be discussing some of the outcomes specifically around the defense of cyber operations. Thank you, Sunita.
Thank you, Jared. So I think what Jared has done is set some context already around why the CSSC has been stood up. So as you know, we have unique platforms and network systems that need to operate securely. These include those that are domestic as well as those that are deployed. The project will develop defensive cyberspace operations as a capability to protect, defend, and contribute to the resilience of the NZDF network systems and platforms, including the deployed elements. So before we go further into defensive cyberspace operations as a capability, I just want to touch a little bit on the definitions. Cybersecurity is the technologies, processes, and practices designed to protect networks, devices, programs, and data from attack, damage, and unauthorized access. So cybersecurity is network focused and threat agnostic. Defensive cyberspace operations builds on the foundational cybersecurity technologies, processes, and practices, and applies them in an operational military context to support the commanders to be able to maintain operational continuity. So defensive cyberspace operations are mission focused and threat specific. So I guess that's a little bit of a point in difference for us as a military organization. The benefits that we are after in completing this project is to really improve the safety of our people, increase effectiveness in our operations, and definitely contribute to the national security. So what? With understanding what the project is seeking to do, I think it's worth covering a little bit around where we expect uplift in this sort of domain. This is about how so command leadership and management is really about how we need to organize ourselves to deliver an enhanced DCO. This is strategically, operationally, and tactically. DCO is underpinned by robust governance and policy, as Jared has mentioned. So what processes and procedures do we need to put in place that will drive efficiencies that will allow us to move fast in a world that's changing daily? The other area of anticipated uplift is workforce. So what are the competencies required for DCO at all of those three levels, being strategic, operational, and tactical? And based on these, what training do we need to develop or source? What does career progression look like for our cyber warriors or cyber experts in uniform? How should we be planning our workforce, the growth, and what HR policies do we need to have in place to support that plan? From a technology point of view, based on the requirements gathered to date and the assessment we've done of our current state, we believe there are some areas of uplift that we really need. In these areas, whether it's network discovery or surveillance and monitoring, forensics, vulnerability scanning, capability that can reach back. So we have deployed capability, which means we could be, we have ships that are deployed that need to be connected back home. So reach back support. We need capability being high tech and low skill, especially for the deployed units. What innovation do we need to be looking at? What emerging technologies do we need to be focusing on? What should we be building and growing here? And what should we be looking at buying and partnering? So these are some of the things we'll be looking at. Of course, we have some constraints, which I'll cover off in a later slide. From a relationships point of view, we want to work in a more integrated way with our partners, both domestic and international. The ideal future operating model will emulate the core features of a joint integrated interagency approach for DCO. How might NZDF's DCO capability provide a surge or contingency support to national cyber defense in times of crisis? And the Five Eye community for us, international partners that we have, represent a key enabler and partner for our capability. From an infrastructure point of view, as a result of increased personnel, we may need additional facilities. However, details of that are yet to be worked through. So we may have missed some of the capabilities we think we need. So that's where I guess we will need your help. Now what? So opportunities for industry. From a workforce point of view, we believe there are opportunities for secondment between defense and industry, additional boost in personnel for defense through industry, assistance with organizational design, expanding the talent pool in the cybersecurity industry. NZDF personnel working with industry will enhance industry capability, and those leaving the service will directly grow the talent pool. School and university programs to identify and grow, as well as encourage the future cyber workforce. The second area of uplift where we believe there is industry opportunities is in training. So we want to be able to leverage training capabilities that already exist. NZDF also may have specific cyber training that needs to be undertaken in-house due to the security requirements that we have. The increasing focus on information operations, including cyber, will require a broad training and operations program. There are opportunities to partner and share the training burden with government, industry, academia. There are some of the areas of training. Within the technology stream of work, we're looking at options and deployed capabilities and some of the other technical capability areas around monitoring, incident management, forensics, threat intelligence, and vulnerability scanning. We need solutions that work on premise and or in a federated hybrid model. With this project and with this area of work, there are going to be some risks. The first one is around the complexity that we have in terms of our requirements. We are multiple organizations, so 3 services, headquarters, joint forces, each with various networks across services, various platforms. They operate differently, so systems on the ships operate differently to the ones on the planes. To the handheld stuff. So you're looking at some complex, a complex environment really. We have requirements to operate on air-gapped networks temporarily and permanently. From a culture point of view, we have not only those multiple mini organizations within a bigger organization, we have bases and camps throughout the country. We have civilian and military workforce, that means language, different languages, different mindsets. Cyber requires a lot of change in online behaviors and understanding cyber, understanding the fact that cyber is part of information warfare will take a little bit of change management. While we are not unique in our cybersecurity needs, an incident or an attack on an operational platform could have serious implications. For example, undetected malware introduced into a warship navigation system could be catastrophic, causing a collision with another vessel or causing the warship to stray into disputed waters. Theft of operationally critical information could have life-threatening implications or even undermine the success of an operational deployment with a high international profile. And this is a reputational risk for NZ. Later on, you'll hear a little bit more from our CIO on the strategy that we are heading towards. Migration to the cloud introduces new attack vectors, wider monitoring requirements, and incident management challenges. And lastly, another key risk, which you've heard before earlier on in the day, is the fact that we are likely to get a different government or a new government. That's going to take some time to settle. We have COVID-19. There's going to be impact from that. And we have a defense assessment that's due in February that will provide a bit more clarity on whether this is important for the government or not. So what does it all mean? It means that the decisions that we want made could be delayed. From a timeline point of view, we are currently undertaking early engagement and understanding what opportunities exist. We want to continue that engagement right until we submit a business case. Underlying all of that, there's a whole lot of project activities that are being undertaken to determine what we want to deliver and how we're going to deliver that. The risk area being the opportunities for business we see kicking off from July, and again, quite dependent on the new budget that is set. So we have a few technical challenges as well. Data sovereignty is one. We have a segmented network for security level. By security level, we need to be able to defend right up to the edge. That means our deployed operations. Deployed systems must be standalone capable, and systems must be able to work with coalition forces and partners. Our personnel rotate every 2 years, so keeping the skill set in an area that is usable is a challenge. We use a wide range of electronic equipment, some modern and some not so. And care is needed monitoring operational technology. How can you help us? So your understanding in the complexity of our requirements matters. Your ability to provide us with some options, whether they are fixed or deployed, the competencies and skill sets we require, technology and business process options, IT and OT options. Your thought leadership, innovation will really guide us. How have you introduced products into companies and agencies that have lifted the organization's cyber defense? How did you achieve that? Are there any results you can share? Given we have some level of cyber defense, where do you think your services or products would add value? What makes you different to the competitors? What is your direction in machine learning? How much are you investing in this area and what results have you seen? How are you leveraging innovation and opportunities to keep this capability constantly up to date? So these are some of the areas that we'll be interested in hearing. So in terms of your key contact points, Jared and myself will be your key contact points after this forum, and we will be in touch with you in March next year to share further updates. The scope of the CSSC project will actually be determined once we have more clarity on the funding that we're going to receive. And with that, I thank you for your attention.